So our focus is fundamentally on the boy
child of screaming
hence how
cannot
we
hear the
use
words
this
"I love you."
conversation. What about the boy who's been running now for 3 years and we've got a national model? What we excited about them is next month, 11th of July, we're launching online. After 2 weeks, we mobilize 2 million rand towards school campus packaging. This is about to be support, and we're working with us to be able to do that. And we look forward to continuing this journey with EmpowaMen, a critical platform, an important platform. And kudos to you for taking on this complex, difficult platform. To the ladies in the audience, we are nothing without you. We are absolutely nothing without you. I was raised by a single mother who I hope is proud today for what you're doing. And we appreciate you during this conversation. We do believe that it is possible to create allyship between men and women, boys and girls on the fight against gender-based violence. Thank you very much.
That was beautiful. I'll have the sweater, thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So, how are you, my guy? Interesting to see you here. I last saw you at Reds, man. I literally last saw this guy at Reds. We lived with him in the same Reds for 3 years. Man, it's a long time ago. Yeah, the 60s were a great time. What's up, PC? Looking cool, man. Superstars. All through that. Because I'm about to bring in our speakers. Before I do that, I'd like to thank our media partner, Metro FM. Please give them a round of applause. Come on. It's weird me saying their name and I'm being recorded. And those who don't know. Well, I have a job on Monday. I'll find out. And I'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Moses Kutlaya, who is the director at South Africa's Promise. Please give him a round of applause. Looking cool, yeah. Looking cool. Come here. I'd like to welcome Mr. Martin Powders, founder of EmpowaMen. Give him a round of applause, please. Listen. The Jewish student, yes. That's what we call when you're making sense. Pre-Jewish. You can take any one of these. Yeah? Okay. I'd like to welcome Ms. Tina Kurisang, CEO and Executive Board Member at the Soul City Institute. Yes. The people that gave us Sister Bettina. Not the song. Not the song. Those who don't know. In fact, everyone who's here knows who Sister Bettina is. I welcome to healer. I'd like to welcome media personality, actress and TV presenter, Ugalise Warangamone. Thank you. Where did you go? I was absolutely there. It's already. Take this. Alright, all the way from the government, all the way from Brooklyn, is the Chief Director of Communications at the Department of Social Development, Ms. Luka Oliver. When I was young, my mama was a nurse, and they always told me that she worked for Brooklyn, and I assumed it was a person. I really did. I assumed it was some guy from Haba. There we go. You can have that one. There we go. Are we ready? Can we please test our mics? Yes, okay. Fina. Okay, the Zulu in me jumped out. I saw Pina. Fina. Okay. Got it. Let me welcome you again. I'd like to welcome to the stage CEO and Executive Board Member of the Soul City Institute, Ms. Fina Kurisang. Thank you. I'm multilingual like that. I got the Kurisang part. But before I test the mic. Oh, yeah, right. Mr. Countess. It's done. All right. Give us a link. Give us a link. Get that.
I don't want to take your job now.
Minister.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So we are brought here together. By the way, I'm having a bit of, I'm triggered a bit because normally when I sit in a panel like this, it's usually women around me, and we generally we're about to fight. Those who know. So I hope you don't fight us. This is what I do for a living. So we are here to discuss something that is paramount, something that is often overlooked, because we live in a society where we focus a lot on the girl child, and reasonably so. You know, women in South Africa go through a lot. Women in South Africa face a lot of challenges, but however we forget the boy child. And when we look at social media, we look at the media, when women are complaining, they complain about men. So we are not sorting out the problem in the development stages. And then it becomes a problem, and then now we are trying to change someone who's grown. And they say something about the mind, Uti. Your mind is like cement. It starts out like wet cement. So they say that by the time you are 35, it is hardened. It's very difficult to actually change that. I'd like to just throw it to the panel. Anybody can catch it. I heard Ukosnati on stage speaking about a good man. What does that look like in today's society? Maybe we can start with you.
Let me greet everyone. I have a bit of a flu, so my voice is not what it normally is. I always ask myself that, right? What is a good man? Because when you talk to men, when they define who they are, they use culture. Indoda yomZulu, indoda indebele. Usually that's how it goes, and usually it's because they need you to understand. You see, I'm also showing with my body. The minute they say indoda, they also, their body also tells you that this is a man, right? And if we define a man based on culturally where they come from, which is part of their identity, right? If by religion a man stands up and says, I'm the head, because the Bible says that, I don't know if it says that, right? If that's how we define men, or that's how men define them, then when bad things happen, we then associate those bad things with culture, because a man used culture to define who they are. We then associate those bad things again with their religion, because again it came into play. And I'm painting this picture because we then don't get to see the other side, which I believe exists, because I'm a mother to a 17-year-old boy who's the sweetest boy, who never speaks back, who never retaliates, right? But I have never, in my entire 17 years journey with him, heard him say, I'm a good man. And it's not because he's not good, but when we measure the standard that is out there, it's hard for boys and men to associate, those who see what is happening, it's hard for them to associate with manhood.
Okay. You touched on culture. You touched on how it influences how we raise our boys, and then you included religion in it. And Martin, I want to take it to you. Do you feel you work with young men? Do you feel that there is a difference in how we raise our men across the different cultures? Do you pick that up?
I think the masculinity is
is a construct that we use across cultures. It might be a little bit more intense in certain cultures, but it is a standard that the man is tough, the man is the provider, the man is the defender, the man is the protector, the man is the... And that kind of just spreads and cuts across all cultures. I've not seen... It might be a little bit more intense in the Zulu culture, for instance. I have to know these things. My son is Zulu, so I have to. And so it's kind of there, the fighters, going around with the shield and that sort of thing, the shield and the spear. But I'm still learning. About it. But in masculinity, and I think we need to define what is masculinity, and as a construct, it is a good person who protects those around him, takes care of those around him, who mentors those around him, who is a positive role model, and that is to me what masculinity is about, and I think that is what we as a society should start focusing on.
No, I definitely hear you. Guys, you are a mother.
I am.
How are you instilling that notion of a good man? First of all, how old is he?
Well, my baby.
Your baby.
My baby's only 5. But I think it's a very significant age. And I heard Nkosinathi speak about, the inner child. And we all know that psychologically the first 5 years are the most important for any developmental milestone. And, for me, it's been quite different from the next person because, I'm a single mom raising a son with special needs. And so developmentally, he's not necessarily on par with everybody else, but I still need to recognize that he's going to be a man in the society one day, even though he is still my baby, but he's, presenting, qualities and characteristics that probably wouldn't be deemed very manly.
So how am I introducing it? I think I'm winging it, to be quite honest, because I've never been a mother before. This is my first time, but I think I draw strength from, just identifying within myself how I would want him to show up within the world, really, and be accepted for who he is and what society thinks he should be. By nature, he's very affectionate. He's loving. He's not non-verbal, by the way. So everything that he does is really, physical. It's psychological, and also because it's a social impairment. He has to show up in a way that he can be recognized. So look, I can read all the books, and I can go to all the psychologists or child educational psychologists or occupational therapists, but I let him just be who he is.
I love the honesty. I love the honesty where it's just like there is no formula to this thing.
Absolutely isn't. Because, like I'm saying, today, because it's a neurodivergent condition, he will show up like this today and tomorrow he could be angry or, or extremely excited. And I just let him be, because he is enough.
Oh, that's beautiful. Linda, I scared nobody's here. What's happening with the journey? Lunga, you're a mom as well.
Yes, I am.
There's a notion of boys don't cry. There is a lot of judgment that, as guys, we are judged for how we feel emotionally. I remember growing up, I learned how to talk because I grew up in a house filled with women. And if there are guys that grew up in a house that is filled with women, the first thing you learn is how to verbally defend yourself. Because ziyakhala. And then I had to leave that house and go to school and go to varsity. And then other men would go, my guy, you talk too much. And I was like,
it was my defense mechanism. I had to learn how to talk. So we are judged on how we express ourselves emotionally. How do we change that when raising young men to teach them that it is okay to cry? It is okay to express yourself. Because I'm sorry, I'm just going to go on a bender here because there's something I feel very strong about this one. Um, I've seen how different I am from my brother. Sorry, Sep. I feel how different I am from my brother. My brother does not know how to verbally express himself. And oftentimes he will resort to being physical because he cannot express himself. I've I've never had to be physical because I could not express myself. So how do we work around that?
Yeah, I think Bukaise has already told us that, there's no formula. But I think as a mother of now adult boys, I've learned to also let them be. And I've also learned, and because I work at social development, when you work with social workers, they teach you how to speak to children. They teach you how to be sensitive to different people, and especially with children. So with my kids, they're my kids. They speak. They've been taught that their voice matters. In the Department of Social Development, I am taught that children have a right to participation. So when you are taught those things, that they must participate in everything that you do, I allow them to participate, and I see them in order for them to be able to be full on human beings. I say human beings because I don't want to be a man. I don't want to be a father to them. I can only be a mother to them. And I'm very conscious about the fact that I can't be a man to them. And I think I was sharing with you earlier that as you grow as a woman, you understand that there are things that you just can't teach your boys. Um, the first thing that was an eye opener for me was when they started wearing ties at school, and it was
Still
my
don't know how to tie one, by the way.
yeah, and it was my dad who had taught me all those years ago how to make a tie. And you know what? I found the security guy at school, and the security guy at school, was religious in teaching them how to make a tie. Then it went up to matric. They had to get a suit, you know. And I don't know how to choose a suit for a man. I can see when a man is dressed up, nicely, but I don't know how to do that. And I made it a point that I will find a man to go and teach them how to, how to choose a suit and all of those things, because truly I can't be a man. Just yesterday, I saw my eldest had a beard, and he's trying to keep neat. But I could see that this shaving is incorrect. There's a lot of things that are going on here. And then I start asking questions to him, and then he says to me, "But ma, I was never taught."
Ish.
For a good minute, I stopped, because I was yapping. And it also dawned on me that when you first get your first period, your mother teaches you how to put the sanitary towel correctly, in your underwear. So what I do with them is that I make sure that they speak their mind, and it has been very difficult because the dad is Zulu, the mom is
Why are
Xhosa.
we in it?
The mom is Xhosa, and I'm sorry, and you can just understand that dynamic, that comes with that, and we spoke about culture, when they are in Cape Town, with my family, all of them are children. They do all the chores. There's no one who is a girl and a boy that they can't do this. When they go to the other side, there are things that you see that they are taught that kunje uba indoda yomzulu, you know, and then you just have to find the balance for them. And I also have to just say, teachers are the most greatest people in our lives. because teachers are able to make sure that this whole person becomes this man as well. So when we say it takes a village to raise a child, these are the things that we speak about. That teachers are very important in our lives, families, grandparents. The men that we have relationships with. Because they too.
Why did you sigh when you said that and you stood? What's happening? Tell
I'm
us
trying
more
to
about that.
I'm trying to acknowledge that they also play an important role, because sometimes you come home and you're like, "No, this one, what this one has said," and you want to be a woman in it, and then the man can be able to say, hold on, this is not how you must deal with it. Try to do it this way, and you get different results.
You mentioning gender roles, and now I want to bring Mr. Kuzwayo in it. Do you feel, sir, that maybe that's what we get wrong from the onset? The definition of gender roles. So this is what a man is supposed to be. Not a Zulu man, guys. This is what a man is supposed to be. This is what a woman is supposed to be. Do you feel that maybe we need to go back there and restructure that?
No, I don't think so. My previous role, I used to be in advertising. And I had to learn very quickly that you look at people as individuals and never as groups. And I've always enjoyed the margins. So when I was younger, I interviewed a guy who lived on the streets in Cape Town. I asked him what happened. He said he'd been sentenced to death. And when the death sentence was abolished in South Africa, it was commuted because he had already served his 20 years on death row. And he was let off on the streets. We had a very good conversation about growing up, about being lazy and then blaming all the circumstances around you. And I want us to remember, and I've met and discussed with some of the young people who killed people in Marikana. Guys, we need to raise men and not mice. We need to raise people who can make a decision. I always say to my kids and their daughters, it's better to be wrong than to be in doubt. Because if there's a fire and you have to make a call whether we go left or right, and you still want to consult, you're all going to die. And research has shown that in a bar, when there's a fire on a bar, in a bar, the people who want to get, let me take the last one, are the ones who actually die. And it is actually sad that exactly a month after the election, we still don't have a government. What if there's a riot like it's happening in Kenya today? Who has the authority to stop it? We need to raise men and not mice.
But Kuzwayo, you still have not addressed what I asked, because I asked Kuti. So, do we need to? You're saying we need to keep it the same as it is?
Our view of roles is wrong. If you think, let's go to isiZulu. Umkabayi Jama, Shaga's aunt is the one who overthrew Shaga. He said, so Shaga was a dictator. I mean, Chief Luthuli sells it in his book. His book, the name will come just now. Let My People Go. Uti, when Shaga died, not a single person mourned him. It was literally finja. You know when you go to a funeral and Mfundisi says dirt to dirt, and the Toliki said, well, dotini. And then he says ashes to ashes, and the exes jump. But that was Shaga. It was like gone. And Umkabayi went to his brothers, and said to her nieces, and said, listen, this country is falling apart. This country is falling apart. People aren't allowed to get married when they want to. And she said one thing. So she was the tough one in that family. Because, a friend of mine who's unfortunately passed away on Thursday, he used to say, oh, I love white men. they liberated us from the tyranny of black women. Because the woman was always the matriarch. You know when they asked Mike Tyson, who are you scared of? He said, nobody except for my mother. And I mean, the only person I ever feared who's gone now was my grandmother. Anybody, not your mom.
Martin, what do you feel about... I'm joking. Some things were said.
It's a pleasure for liberating you guys from your way. Anytime.
Guys, do you have any feelings on Mr. Kuzwayo's opinion?
Can you hear me now? I'm not going to really go deep.
No, go deeper, women of God. Go.
Look, I think, balancing anything is worth getting it right. What I mean by that is that, he's alluding to how a mother, would, and I'm just speaking on the last point here, that a mother would be somebody that he or his sons would fear more, because generally mothers are the ones who show up more in the parenting role, and I'm being like obviously traditional about it here. But I think, any harmony or for anything to take place within the human or the son or the boy child, to see, like she was speaking about gender roles, and how, it's not important that, we stay specific to, no, my mother says this, no, this is how a man should be, because your mother is not a man, and so I think in my specific, instance, I've allowed my son to also, interact with people, within the family, because his own father or his biological father isn't there to instill those specific, qualities. So I really find, sort of like, it's really advantageous to allow boys to show up as themselves within the people that they find as role models, but obviously showcasing positivity as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. Miss Korisa, there is there's something that is a buzzword right now on social media everywhere: emotional intelligence. How do we go about that? How do we go about cultivating that in young men?
Maybe let me answer it with a question, Mable.
Yebo.
Reflecting also on what Tate was saying here. What does it mean to be a young black boy in South Africa today? Because there's a question we need to be asking black boys.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
They are confronted with so many things that answers are not coming as they should, right? Because it depends on who you go to, right? And I want to answer the emotional intelligence one. So if you come to Fina because she works at Soul City Lumka in alluded or social development, they will teach you. I will probably refer her to a soul buddies club, or refer the boy to a soul buddies and say, look, the answer you're looking for, if you join a soul buddies club, you'll find that answer. It means you are a free young person, you have every right, because we use the constitution, as the framework. You have a right to be, right? And when they have a right to be, we limit those rights, because we have a framework in our societies of how black boys, and I'm specific about black boys, because the problems we are addressing today, I don't know, I don't interact a lot with white boys. I don't think they have the same kind of problems that black boy children have, right? He alluded to 60% of homes being single mom led. And in 60% of those homes, if you go to them, you'll find that it's a black woman who's leading that home. And a black woman is what? The face of poverty in South Africa. A black woman is the face of domestic violence in South Africa. She's the face of vulnerability to many illnesses, HIV being top of the list. So in that conundrum, a little black boy is raised in confusion, because there's an uncle on one side saying something, there's the mother, the matriarch, on the other saying something, then there's an absent father somewhere who sometimes saying nothing or saying something, because his absence is speaking to this boy, right? His absence is speaking rejection. So we must look at what does it mean for a black boy growing up in South Africa today, so that when we now say you need to be emotionally intelligent, we understand that this person has been, if you allow me to use the word, a puppet of a system that's sort of, you know how they play those puppets, dancing to different tunes so that you fit in. At school, they want you to have certain decorum, you show up in that. At home, it's something else. On the streets, it's something else. So we are raising these little boys in confusion. We are not creating social security, emotional security, social spaces that allow them to be. We are defining who they should be, and I have a problem with that.
Yo, you dropped bombs there. Martin, do you have anything to say to that?
A lot.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
In that, you're right. I mean, we need to go back in this thing 350 years, right? And this was a lesson I learned when I walked through the Labour Museum in the bottom end of Joburg, and I saw something written there where the guy said, "I hope my sons aren't kept from their wives like their father was from their mother." That kind of put everything into perspective for me, because that's a system that was designed to destroy families, right? And we need to start with the root cause. And I think that's it, right? So daddy would be sent up to Joburg to go and work on the mines. His kids were stuck down in Eastern Cape, Kossa, and they would be raised by the mummies. And daddy would get bored up here, and he would like, hey, ladies. And then he would end up with a family here. Then he's too embarrassed to go back to the family down there and tell them what's going on. And too embarrassed to tell the family up here that he's got a family down there. And it just cascaded from there. But aside that, we lack male role models in families to such a huge extent that boys are given 5 skills to deal with the difficulties in life: sex, sport, silence, anger, and addiction. And if those 5 don't work, then they resort to the last one, and that's violent suicide. So we see between 25 and 28 men commit suicide every single day in South Africa. Every single day. Why? Because we're not talking about real things. And this is where this is where toxic masculinity comes in. Because when we get around the shishinama and we're having a beer and whatever, what do we talk about? Cars, women, sports, garbage. Right? We're afraid to talk about real stuff as men. And, people say to me, oh, you don't have many friends. And I don't care, because the ones that I have meaningful conversations with. I've got amazing friends who take me to places like the Labour Museum and show me the impact of apartheid on people's lives. I've got amazing friends that will take me into their homes and show me what it's like to live in poverty. And we need to start getting real and start understanding what it is that kids live there. But on the flip side of that, we also need to start understanding that more boys suffer sexual abuse in South Africa every single year than girls, and we don't talk about it. We have over 400 victim empowerment centers that only deal with girls and women. Yet more boys suffer, right? And we keep quiet about this. When you walk into a victim empowerment center, the first picture you see is of a woman cowering and a man beating her, or a little girl with her panties around her ankles. You never see an image of a little boy cowering or anything like that. And we don't talk about it. Why not? Why are we so afraid to be real?
I think it stems from how, and I'll speak for a lot of us who actually grew up in the township, the fact that as a guy, you get most of your education in the streets. Yes, you are taught certain things at home, even if you do have both parents, but the chunk of your education actually happens in the street. And when we sit in the street, we are told you get laughed at if you start a conversation that's a bit emotional. You know, because that bravado that we need to have. So I think that's where we get it from. And then you find now you're finding a grown man that is afraid to sit and have a beer with you and just talk about feelings. Uthi, "Hayi, kahle wena, asikhulume, yeah, iyadlala ama-Proteas namhlanje." So how are you guys changing that at home? Maybe I'll go to you, Lumka. How are you changing that at home in terms of Guti? Feel, cry, and
I think I want to embellish the point that Martin was talking about us not talking about the problems of boys, and that they are.
sorry,
they-
is Lumka's mic on?
yes, I think,
It's very low. Yes.
and that they don't have safe spaces to talk about their feelings and what is going on in their lives. I was sharing before I came in here that when we speak about the girls, we always speak about the girls. When we talk about teenage pregnancy, for instance, we don't talk about the young boy who may have impregnated the girl. And we speak a lot to young people, children. We took the country's plan on fighting GBV. And the things that children were saying, number one, the boys were saying, firstly, when the parents fight, the dads withhold maintenance, the moms withhold excess. And they are growing up not even knowing who their fathers are, their identity is. When they were talking about, like I said, the issues of teenage pregnancy, they're saying it is the girl who is the poster girl that we speak about, and not the boy who is expected to pay intlaulo, and the pressures that come with
Wait,
being.
sorry, Lumka. Wait, hold on. Hold
let
on.
me
Wait. Did you just say when it comes to teenage pregnancy, some families would ask for intlaulo from a 15, 14-year-old?
This is what the children are saying. And also, when we speak, we spend time in Lusikisiki, and we spoke a lot about ukuthwalwa kwamantombazana. But we hardly speak about the boy who loses his manhood and doesn't die during circumcision. So many young boys are walking around without their penises, in this country. And we're not putting that forward and having a discussion in what that does to a yes.
Lumka, is there someone here? Because wait, I'll just go to the Eastern Cape because that's where the practices actually happen. Is there a guy from the Eastern Cape in the audience? Nobody. I just want to. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, I'm just coming. I'm gonna wait. Oh yes, okay, cool. Please, something big has just been dropped here, and we are going to address it live. Sawano, Unjan. Great. Is this a thing? Lendo Ulumka just mentioned.
I guess, yes, it is an issue.
Why is it not talked about?
I don't think it's not talked about, but I guess it's not on platforms like we are on, But I think there's also a bigger problem which goes beyond just us having the conversation here. It is about the political will of leaders and the community of the Eastern Cape to actually deal with some of the atrocities and some of the things that happen in circumcision schools. It makes no sense for anyone to die because of dehydration because they've had their foreskin removed. So I think that's a problem that can only be resolved when there is one political will to deal with unscrupulous traditional surgeons or nurses, and also when the broader community actually rises up against that. But the reality is that there is no political will. I mean, even this week, even in this circumcision season, there are boys who have died. I've gone through the rite, I've taken my sons through the rite, and I'll still go take them through that. But the difference is that I spend days in the initiation school. For the first week, which is the first crucial week, first 2 weeks, I'm there every day. But what is missing is, again, I guess it comes back to the fathers, where unscrupulous men and those with bad intentions actually take advantage. It goes back to the very point you make about how the streets teach us. The reality is that it's also the streets down there, you know. These boys are, what values are they being taught? What it means to be in order? What does it mean to be in order? You know, which is not the conversation we're having here. It's a totally different conversation. I often say to my friends, you know, if you sit and you will review, and if you were asked, would you go back again? I wouldn't, because really, there's nothing that I can point to and say, because I've gone through the ride, this is what, how it has benefited me. But again, I guess it also becomes that conflict of culture and belonging. My son, my eldest son, I took him, in fact, he's a Durban boy, he's from Mlas, right? But when he came to live in the Eastern Cape and study in the Eastern Cape, he actually was clear that he actually has to follow that path, because in the closest communist society, you are nothing if you have not gone through the traditional route. But I guess it's all about, I think the conversation that needs to be had is, how do we make this, we're not going to abolish it, it's not going to happen, but how do we make it relevant to the challenges that we face as a society today? And that we make sure that it becomes a platform where young men can actually be taught what it means to be a man in this society, and actually to play a meaningful role in society. I don't know if in a roundabout way I've answered your question.
Hey, but you've dropped something so heavy, because it speaks on, are our young men protected?
Yeah.
If we can sit here and say, look, there's a problem right there, and then we as society are not doing anything about it, and we are still, as it's just said, we are shupututi. I went there, I don't see anything that it taught me, but when my son was of age, ngimthathile ngamisa khona, and he mentions ukuthi there were deaths, but I still took my son there. So, Bob Kuzwa, angize kuwena, what are we doing as just, let's get to us as fathers. What are we doing to protect young men? What role are we playing?
We're trying to do too much, and we should stop. Why, you know, I studied religion. Why was it the wise men who went to see Jesus Christ when he was born, and not wise women? Because they were going to come back and say, hey, man, I'm going to have fun, not Joseph. Yes? Now, imagine little Jesus is playing his marbles, and then say, lift your head. You know? So Jesus Christ, in all his glory, grew up in that 70% of kids who grow up without a biological father inside the house. Some of my teachers were Irish nuns. And the reason why the Irish were nuns was because there were no men. The world has always been at war, and men have always been away. But we now live in a world where we are told everything that we're doing is wrong. You're not eating right. When you run, you must make sure that you land with your heel. And we're just made to feel that everything we are doing is wrong, and you're raising your children wrongly, you know? So one of the things that I've studied is, with part of artificial intelligence, I've been particularly interested in one kid makes it better than the other. You know, it's a throw of a die mostly. There are too many things, you know. But in the research that I did, particularly on golf, one of the respondents I got was, when you get to the other country, you're coming to play professional golf, and here is, and my mom's credit card bounces. That's what, already when I'm trying to take an Uber, already my mind is not in the game. And the number one golf winner of all time, well, depending, Jack Nicklaus anyway, he said when he hired his caddy, he said, I want you to do two things. Carry my bag. Don't help me about how I should hit a golf ball, how long I should hit it. Just carry my bag. And when I'm playing badly, remind me that I'm the best golfer in the world. All we need to do is to make our children, when they walk out of that house, believing that they are the best in the world. So this one, as a one Joseph, he says, oh, my dad is God. Now that's a big head. You know?
Hey, what's on that? But I hear you. I hear you. So you feel that we've always grown up in societies where the dads were not present.
In standard 2, Mr. Escali, I love the teacher to bits. So the sad thing about not teaching language at school, indigenous language, is that you lose the culture. Because the language is in the culture. The culture is in the language. So there were always wars. I hear boys changing their surnames to their fathers' surnames. You're not supposed to kill that boy. And the reason for this is that if you are born when your mom and dad are not married, you become automatically the child of your grandfather and your grandmother. That's why you belong to that family. You take their surname, you become their child. And the reason for that is because in any war, there'd always be rapes. And then the child is left here. Then you don't want to be asking too many questions. That's it. But now that enemy of ours who came and killed my brother, and you take his name, well, follow them, go to the grave. That's how, this I learned in standard 2 from Mr. Sky.
That must have been a fun class.
It was important. And because we have culture, and I'm not saying black, we have a culture that's been there for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And we want to miniaturize it in just 48 years of apartheid. I think it's a shame and we must stop.
Lumka, you've got something to say?
Yes, well, I hear Baba, and the things that he's saying about identity and children wanting to be, taking the rightful surnames. It then becomes very difficult in South Africa in 2024 when we want to account for our children. The world has moved. Whilst we have culture, the world has moved. When we go out and we speak to families and we speak to actually services for children and boys so that we can have services that are going to go to children. We one time found that the entire population register of the country is not correct because of the same culture. I have a child and I give that child my surname. But now we want to travel with this child. And the law says, Father, where are you? And Father is not there. And whilst I hear the things about culture, how then do we try and make sure we account for these children? Year in, year out, the Minister of Basic Education is telling us that boys are not making it to matric. Year in, year out, we are told that the number of boys who write matric are at just about 40%. And then when we are there, no one is asking now, where are these boys? What are they doing? Are they in prison? Are they dead? Where are they? But we can be able to account for the girl who falls pregnant, because that girl who falls pregnant will be able to find at the Department of Health, and actually the girl, we have said as a country that you have a right to come back to school even when you are pregnant. So there are these dynamics that we have to deal with when we speak about what is due legally for a child, and also what is due culturally for the child, and how do we then merge these things in order for us to be able to account. I also want to bring the fact that Black people have been adopting children for years. You know, when your mother dies, the magazi takes care of you, and everybody else does. But now, how then do we bring these services, and we know that Magazi is looking after this child, because we know we live in a South Africa in 2024 that our children are not safe even when they are in families. So there's a dynamic there as well. While I appreciate the cultural things, it brings a lot of dynamics when we want to make sure that these services, Ungalwa said that there's no political will, you know, when we're talking about other things. But even here, the law tells us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and what we need to do. Now we are saying that when a child says they want to know their identity, we are saying that kill that child, because how can they do that? You know, because you belong to this family that has raised you. So we need to have this conversation as we're speaking to boys, because boys do want their identities. I am telling you that I've been raising my kids. Yes, the father has been there. When my son turned 18 and had a choice now that doesn't say the court, the primary residence is with me, the very first thing that my son did was to say, I want to go and stay with my father. My son was not able to fetch his suit that I had bought for matric dance because he wanted his father to go and fetch the suit with him. So there is a need that our children want, no matter what we do, and they acknowledge, ladies, the hard work that we do for them. But they tell us that you are not our fathers. There are things that they want from that family. And as a person, I will never not allow my kids not to go to KwaZwane, because I can never teach them the ways of KwaZwane. Thank you.
If I may, yeah, it's not a rebuttal, it's a discussion. So, when a child is born by my sister, and she's not married, he immediately becomes my son, also. Immediately. In fact, he called me on Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. I said, why don't we have a grandfather's day now? You know, because he's got a son as well. So that's immediately happened. When he's going to pay Lobola, I go. I will consult with his dad, Usbali, because he remains Usbali, and that's why. So that there's always, between me and Usbali, you can fight. But Usbali and I must keep a good relationship. Because, you know, I represent you, so that if you're hot-headed one day, at least I can show. I'm not saying that's the case, but that's how it was. That's how our systems were built. Then computers come, and we want to force the whole thing into what the computer wants. It's okay, it does happen. You know, I always make an example coming from my ad days, that people will eat anything. You know Simba chips? I'm a Simba, right? But we eat them because they were the first category. And so I'm a Simba chips. You don't want to call them that. But because they were the first in the category, they were able to sell them. So people, we know this from marketing. You can, if you're the first, you can make them, you can shove anything down their throats. What I'm asking for, guys, is please, the only thing we need to give, I'd like you to remember, the only thing we need to give the kids every day is belief in themselves. And just tell your boy, oh, Semhle, you know, just hear when he walks out of the, like, what Madlamini used to do to me, and I just walk out there. Let your children look themselves in the mirror, and they see you, they see God, they see a goddess who makes them believe in themselves. They will reach the highest skies that we need.
And I just, you know, Lento, of believing in yourself. I'm glad that there's somebody that I went to university with here, because there's something that we all experienced. So
I did not have. I went to a school that used to have white people, and then the white people left, and then the name remained. But it was
We're still scared of you.
yeah,
guys.
it was a curse. You know what I'm saying? So I got to interact with a bunch of white boys that we were thrown into a race with. And I picked up something that we didn't have as black boys growing up. Do you remember how they believed in themselves? And they were sure that they belong here. And we had to fight, Uguti. We also belong here. I think that is something that we maybe need to change as black parents. You know? Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah. I want to also just agree with Baba. My son is a trainee pilot, and when you walk into Lanseria, you feel you don't belong there. You understand white power. You understand that you're not supposed to be here. And the first thing that I do is to tell him that you belong here. And then there are these security guys who are black. As he walks past, they say Mangete. You know, and you can feel that it comes from a place that says, you must go out there, do what you need to do. When he got his private pilot license, it was the guys from security who were black who came and were like, yes, mfana wami. Yes, mfana wami. Because I felt like they have seen many black children going inside, but they never make it to be what they want to be. So it is very important to always tell your children that they are beautiful, that they belong, they are the greatest thing that they've been. And also another thing is that the pass mark for pilots is 75%. So anything
it better be.
anything that is 74,
I know this 33 thing.
yeah, anything that is 74% is a fail. And I noticed that every time when there was a 74% that he came with, he would say, "Moms, I failed." And I say to him, "You didn't fail. You just did not make it today. You are going to make it."
Yeah. No, that's beautiful.
Mable,
Yebo.
I wanted to, because I can see the
Benz was a winner.
conversation.
Yeah, Benz was a winner.
I agree with affirming our children, right? And I think the best affirmation for boys would be if we allow them to play with dolls as well. Right? And did you hear? Did you hear the response?
Ema ubani ongwavumile lapho kwi-crowd.
Because we are saying fathers don't know how to nurture, they are absent, but we are not giving them that place where they practice playing with nombopi and getting to understand that this is how a child is treated.
Yes, you know, I feel okay. Wait, we are having the first debate. This is it's on.
You'd have thought it dull with
All right, so I should have led with, we need to give boys dolls, and then it would have been on. Thank you. Why don't we buy them dolls and cars? Why don't we mix the toys around? You know? I find dolls creepy, so no, like why are you? No, I've got necrophobia, so I just don't like dolls. They're creepy. Please Google what necrophobia is. It's the fear of dead things. The dolls are creepy. So, but you had something to say. Ukuthi abafana badlale ngodoli.
Yeah, Sanmanani Dumelang. My name is Samari, and I disagree with boys playing with dolls.
Why do you disagree?
I think this conversation at some point, people mention social constructs, and then at the end of the day, they contradict themselves. Okay, let us not do this. But at the same time, when they say now we must give boys dolls, and at the same time we want to protect and nurture the boys, and you say, men, please nurture your boys. And for us as men, when we want to nurture the boys, would want them naturally to play with things that comes, natural for them.
No, wait.
Whoa.
Okay.
Before ninja.
Whoa. No. I want to add to what you're saying.
Yeah.
You can't create an environment and then say and then add education around an environment and then call it nature. Because if you leave a bunch of toys on the floor, and by the way, this has been done. If you leave a bunch of toys on the floor and you put a child there, they are not going to pick the car or whatever. They are going to pick whatever they like, whether it's a girl or a boy. So we can't bring nature into it.
Okay, Sharp, let me continue. Yeah. Let me continue. So, this is my issue. When we want to bottle, like, we can ask men here.
Yeah.
No man was taught to be whether rough or whatever. Let me qualify my statement. I grew up go Orange Farm, ne?
Yeah.
In Orange Farm. There's a place that we called Zguivin. I don't know what do they call it in other places. Like where there's a sort of like a dam or a river somewhere, and then we boys we go there. Yo, Mhosh. Yeah, no, Ishapazu. So no, I get like I'm trying to show there are things that come naturally to boys, ne? And when I grew up with other boys, we would climb trees. Like you wouldn't find little girls trying to climb trees and playing whatever or these rough games. And when we went to Zguivin or that Mkhosha, as men, as boys even then, we went, no uncles, no fathers, no brothers said boys must go to those dangerous places. Us, with our curiosity, as men, would go like, guys, they said there are snakes there at the river or something. And we would go there as boys. And it's not a social construct thing. It's something sort of like it's in our nature as boys to do all these extreme things. That's why now there's this insurance for women. Because they know us as boys. When you drive the car sometimes, we are going to leave the car, then it goes, you're like, we injure boy, then the guys go inside. It's not a social construct. You understand that? As boys, now there's convincing that you want to bottle that energy, that natural energy that boys have because you think it's a problem. The energy is not the problem. It is how these boys are raised. It is what these boys are exposed to. Then now you guys are going to attack something so small like dolls. Dolls won't make these boys maybe soft or good boys. You are just trying to contain a natural energy because you think if they can play with dolls, they're going to be soft boys, understanding. When you say, don't do it, okay, mom. No, that's wrong.
Okay, let's allow other people to actually take. Yeah. Now,
dolls will not make boys to be soft. Period.
That's not what was said.
Whoa. You see, a boy stay in his mother's tummy in a woman for 9 months. That should have made him to be soft. But when he grow up, he's raised by his mother part of his years. Actually, most of the boys, 50% of the boys are raised by their mothers. If that could to make him, what's the right word, soft, it will know. When he goes to school, in primary school, most of teachers are women. Why does that not make him soft? When he goes to church, the Sunday school teacher, it's a woman. Why does that not make him soft? So the doll thing, abafana badlala ngepamu, abafana badlala ngezinto ezenza kubaba amadoda. This was
Okay,
must be strong.
guys, I think we have a problem with contextualization here.
Yes.
It was not said Uguti, the boys are given dolls to make them softer or to make them feel softer. That's not what was said. What was said was Uguti, if you are going to grow up and be a father, mese siyanibona lapha ku Instagram nikusebenzisa for content because you're a babysitter. You're not a father. You are babysitting.
Yes.
That's why it's a content thing for you. But what we are saying is that if you are going to grow up and raise a human being, and you know what I'm saying, you might as well, you can play with the doll. What's wrong? Because you love your daughters most. So what's wrong with ukudlala ngodoli? You know what I'm saying?
But isn't that the same definition of toxic masculinity?
It is.
Because this is, you can hear the toxicity in the statements, right? Kuti, it must be rough. Why should boys be rough? Why? Why should we push for rough when we talk to boys? Can't we just allow children to be children and not even see the gender? Because the minute we genderize them, that's where we create problems.
Thank you. Lunga, you see?
Yeah, I think also we misunderstand the reason we buy toys for our children. The reason we buy toys for children is to expose them, is to educate them. And as a people, we have normalized that we have certain colors for boys, and also we have certain toys for boys and girls. This is also what happens, the inequality that happens in the homes, that the boys are going to be doing certain chores and coming back home at a certain time. Girls must come at a certain time, you know. So these are the things that we should be starting to speak about and questioning whether we want to say that that boys must be rough and all. We are also talking about equality. We're also talking about making sure that we give the right education to our children, not as just boys and girls, but also as human beings, because we want to get our children out there. When your son meets a young woman, they must know that roughness is not going to be the order of the day, especially the girls that we are raising. The girls that we are raising are very empowered. The girls that we are raising, bayashela food, you know. The girls that the girls that we are raising, they've got money, you know, and our boys must step up, you know. And if they're not stepping up, and we are busy telling them that they must be rough, woe unto us.
Actually, I saw this lady. She was very. You could see she's an executive at Checkers, right? And this guy is wearing his overalls. You can see he's just come up from digging the streets. What else is no more push the plate in your lap? Says, oh lady, if you can shit on a plate, I'm going to eat it. The lady got into the car and laughed. Now, you don't have a monopoly on your kids. At least 8 hours they spend on the streets with other boys. And that's what boys say. Do you know when you're taking on this very empowered lady, remember, just worry, we've spoken about it already as boys. Just make her laugh. Once she has laughed, you've crossed every hurdle. So the point is, let's not worry too much. They've got other kids who tell them stuff. You know, the one thing that's making black people, and I hate saying this because nobody wakes up in the morning and remembers that they're black, look in the mirror, I'm black, is the one thing we don't have are cohorts. Cohorts are what make you succeed around the world. So if you were at the same, let's say you were at the same school, and you don't have contact with all the people you were at school with, it's a problem. And we always ask, what do? You don't really tell the truth. Because that person could become a banker and you're starting a business and you need a loan. You're not going to get that loan from people who don't know you.
That's true.
You know, they're going to look at the risk, but people who know you, they will overcome certain things. So let the kids go play with other kids, and then they will create their own cohorts, and more importantly, they're teaching themselves for the world that they are creating, as opposed to living in the world that we know.
Oh, those are bars. Those are definitely. Martin, you
yeah. So the whole doll thing is very funny because my son is 4 now, right? So firstly, I've adopted two kids, right? So this 4-year-old has got such confidence. He'll stand in the middle of Pick and Pay and dance and sing.
And that is it. That's my job as a daddy, to give him the confidence to be able to stand up and use his voice, right? So one of the first things we did is when we adopted our daughter who joined us a week ago, we had to find a doll. And that's an interesting challenge, right? Because I want to find a doll that looks like her. Yo, the Hong Kong stuff doesn't look anything like her. It's horrible.
It's
you know
scary.
what I mean?
It's scary.
Scary, you know? And so eventually we found the doll and we gave it to my son, and he walked around for a day and he was like with a bottle and he was like, and after that it was like, yeah. Gone. You know what I mean? He's not going to change the fact that he's a boy's boy. He's that. You know what I mean? I didn't have to teach him to be that, right? So what is it that we're really trying to do? Firstly, I can agree with you. You don't wake up in the morning going, I'm black. No, I'm not. I don't wake up in the morning going, I'm white. But when I walk into a place, I belong there. Why? Because I've been raised with the confidence about who I am. And that's what we lack in South Africa, specifically. Because for so long, our fathers were told that they were boys. Or that they were just, you know, I mean, think about it, flat boy, a garden boy. You know, I mean, come on, you know. And these men had to go home and raise their children. And what message did they impart to their children? You're nothing better than a boy, you know. When a 3 or 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old could walk up to an adult man and tell him what he had to do, and that man had to listen to him. That's the attitude we need to change. We need to raise our children with such confidence that they can walk into anywhere and just talk to anybody and know that they belong. My son knows that he belongs. I don't wake up in the morning and go, you're... In fact, somebody bought me a book that said, The Amazing Black Child. And I was like, I read it to him and I leave the black part out. He's an amazing child, period. I don't need to brand him. I don't need to give him luggage and baggage. He's got enough. Crikey, he's adopted. He lives with a freaking old white man. Kid's already got an issue. Right? So what do? I have to instill incredible confidence in my son and my daughter. I have to tell them they're beautiful. You know, when the kids come to him and say, you don't have a mommy and daddy, I go like, but you do. You know, so he has to deal with a lot more. But my job is that, purely that. And let me leave you with this thought, right? Because we only got like 2 hours left. Haven't we?
No, we don't.
Sorry. Kids need 3 things in life. It's that simple. They need security, a place to stay, food to eat, a warm bed to sleep in, clothes to wear. They need education and sustenance. Let's put it in that. Education, physical sustenance, food, education, knowledge. And they need love. They need the right kind of love. And unfortunately, nearly half the male population in South Africa doesn't get the right kind of love. They get in the abuse kind of love. And we need to change that. We need to give our children those 3 pillars in their lives. Because if we don't, they go out and they find them in gangs. They find them in all the wrong places. If you don't educate your child properly, there is a pervert out there that will. And they will teach them the wrong stuff.
Thank you. Thank
Michael,
you so
I
much.
just want to piggyback on that, what you just asked now, before I hand over the mic to somebody else. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Zaz Molo. I'm from EmpowaMen. And I happen to be a single mother in South Africa who is raising young boys. Couple of days ago, my eldest, who is now 21, looks like a man, or who's already a man, I suppose, goes into a department store and he says to the person that is serving him that I would like to purchase this. And because he's a young, black, tall man wearing a hoodie and a pair of torn jeans and a jacket, I suppose, and a bucket hat. You get the picture. Typical black young man. And he gets ignored. And then everybody is serving all the couples and the likes. And then 20 minutes later, because I am empowered, right? I walk into the store and I'm like, what is happening? He says, no, I told this gentleman to help me and he's just busy with other people. And I'm like, let's move, let's leave if they don't want to serve you. So I want to make a scene. And he says to me, Mom, I am so used to this. Nobody sees me. first thing that you need to understand, I'm not you, Mom. I'm a black man in South Africa. And already the way that I'm dressed, they've already concluded that I don't even have the money to buy the stuff that I said I wanna buy. So my question is, I get home and then I tell my daughter about this story, my 11-year-old daughter, and I said, Blue, have you ever experienced anything like that? And she says, no, I've got pretty privilege. I don't have those problems. and it is the truth, right? So my question is, how do I help my child, who is a young man, as a woman, whom I've never been a man? I don't know how to be a man. To say to this young black man, everybody sees you, or people see you, because he says it has been his story all his life. Or he happened to also have been part of this private school phenomenon. And you would think that if your child has been private schooled, they would be seen. But the only time that he's ever been seen is when he was performing well and making the school look good. My question is, help a single young or single woman to help the child to see themselves like your white children see themselves.
I don't think it's got anything to do with color.
No.
Have you watched the movie Pretty Woman Walking Down the Street? Brooke Shields.
Sorry,
a white woman. She goes to the shop. Nobody sees her. So, but you know, there's a saying, but hey, when mabati, ogwa kogwezandla. You like to say ogwa mogwezandla. Oh, poor little me. Screw that. Whoever washes a hired car, you don't wash a hired car because it's not yours.
You don't?
You don't wash a car. So, I think what you should tell him, and I learned that in a bar, with my older brother. I was queuing there looking for red grape tizer. He said, you shout at the bar. You shout. Walk like you own this country. You haven't hired it. Tell him that. When you walk, I want to hear your footsteps. When you're walking down the passage, whether a boy or a girl, I want to hear your footsteps. My grandmother would tell me when we had a little fight, listen, your mom and dad are still alive. She was an orphan. You have no reason to be crying about anything as if the world owes you something. The world owes us nothing. We are the owners of this country. We should walk like we do.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mr. Kuzwayo, I've got a very different approach. When I approach a barman, I stand there and I just look at the barman. It works all the time. I don't have to shout because everybody's shouting. I just stand there and I look at the barman, and he eventually comes to me and calls me sir. That's how you run this place.
Or you will die of thirst.
First, but how do you look at him? Where's
you
confidence?
You stand there with confidence and you look at them. And you look at them, and because everybody's going, and you just like you stand there. But of course, you must look good, Pella, when you're doing it.
I want to.
And that's what I don't have.
I want to come back to government now before you say something.
Yeah.
Because think about what you've said right now. Think about what the prevailing talk in the world, in South Africa, is today. It's all about empowerment. Mm-hmm. Empowering who? The girl child, right? Take the girl child to work. It's the 16 days of activism against women and girl abuse. What boys your son hears all the time is it's about women. We need equality. We need to build the women. We need more women. We need more, and he's going like, hey, but what about me? What about me? Am I chicken liver? What am I? And boys are not raised with a stake in this country. When a 16-year-old boy comes up to me and he says, there's no hope for boys in this country, and I go, why? He says, because everything is for women and girls. What hope do parents have to raise a child with confidence and say, you belong? You are part of this country. You own it. So what do we have to do? We have to change our perspective. So women, give them the damn jobs in the executive positions. Let them have them. You go sit in parliament and talk crap and fall asleep and whatever they do, right? And teach boys to get back what it is that we have. Who built this place? We are creative. We are the architects. We are the builders. We are the carpenters. We are the carvers. We're the painters. Look at this Sistine Chapel. Who built that? We need to get back to artistic roots as men, and we need to start doing things. We're not empowered by the fact that we have a high-powered job or have a big bank balance or wear fancy clothes or drive big fancy cars. That doesn't give us worth. Creating things gives us worth.
Okay, I've got about 10 minutes with me. I just want to throw it to our guests. Titi, I want to ask you, because you work with men and young men, and what do you think social media has done to actually influence young men? Is it great? What's happening in that space? Because I see you post on Instagram a lot. What has those kind of platforms done for the young boy in South Africa?
Afternoon, everybody. My name is Titimba. I'm the founder of the Amatama Wellness Network. Social media has played both a positive and negative role in how we are raising the boy child because of what they consume. So a lot of dads, shy away from showing up in terms of the kind of activities that they get up to with especially the boy child. It's kind of something that's not put in the public domain for them because they're still raised by their dads who still have that whole traditional way of raising you, right? But again, I do feel that social media does play a positive role because through others you are able to see that this is how others are doing it. It's showing the possibility of parenting because everyone is obviously journeying in their own way and finding their way as you navigate. But there are people that you see on social media that can either inspire how you are actually doing it or detract you from what you're doing. And those are the conversations we need to have with our kids, So for example, I have what we call Mba Commitment Mondays with my daughters every Monday because I want them to understand the concept of committing to something at a young age. Whether it's committing to being kind, committing to give others a chance. It's the little things, and it's a quality of conversations that you are instilling in your kids that will determine come later on in life, especially when it comes to the issue of bullying. If you don't have a relationship with your daughter or your son, you will never know what's happening to them at school because they'll be too scared to come to you because you are not their friend. They don't see you as that escape. And these are the conversations we need to have at home because it starts with the family unit. It then goes into the suburb you stay in, the province you live in, and of course, the country we live in.
Thanks, Titi. Yo, it seems like there's a lot to do there with parenting.
There is.
Sabi, are you a parent yet? How many? Two.
Yeah.
How's it going?
We're learning.
We trying. Someone okay. On weekends I talk Zulu, so I'm downloading English again. I think every single day we trying, man. We try our best, and I speak as a father who lost his father at a very young age. Growing up in a community where role models of fathers is just not a thing. Because I'm at Damascene. Yeah, we trying. We trying to be the best examples ever. I love what TT said because as a young man you grow up looking to men who are what a role model is supposed to be like. Because there's no perfect man. There's a representation of a man we see here. But we do not know what happens when he gets into his car, what happens behind closed doors. So you emulate what you can and you take from that to create the kind of man you like to become one day. But we're trying, have a baby girl now. It's an exciting challenge. Looking forward to that journey. Got an amazing boy, 7 years of age. And for as long as they can see me as a friend, as TT said, as a source, as a fountain that they can come to and learn, I think I'm doing great, because I would not want umtanami to always seek advice outside when is it line. So I'd like them to come to me first. And you need to create that bridge. You need to create that relationship where I'll judge.
Now here's my thing. I've seen where I've seen some parents cross the line. Because there is a line. Khona ukuba friendly with umntwana wakho. Mase kuba khona where you cross the line now, usumngani wakhe. So how do you work around not crossing that line? Because there's a line.
I think you establish that. For me, it's not a difficult thing. Like, umfanam knows good when it's time to have fun, we have fun. Saturdays, it is yesterday. So, walk a little I normally say no to Monday to Friday. Try it on Saturday so I understand. Nah? Saturday is your yesterday. Like, do what you want. He woke up this morning, wanted to stick sweetie. He had his nuggets because it is yesterday. And sometimes we need to allow them to experience this in Tobazenza because Tina's Kuleles doesn't have to foot. Best stick sweetie, like best nazo. So sometimes you say no because umama what you know go. You say no because ubaba what you know go. So ngiyazama nami ukuthi okay, if I say yes, maybe I can learn from that moment. Maybe there's something I can learn from that yes. And sometimes we prevent ourselves from learning from our kids because we feel like we always have to pour. But sometimes we can learn from just observing certain things because ingane zethu zikhula in a totally different environment. Number one, ingane yami ikhula nobaba noma endlini, something I never had. Intwana yami is driven to school, something I never had. Intwana yami ilalidlile every single night. Into bengenayo mina. So sometimes we need to allow ourselves to learn from the reality that our kids are living because we are creating an environment that we are hoping will be the best for them. And that's sometimes the best we can do. It's an environment that we create for our children. Because the environment you create, even nabangani, me I'm very finicky on who my kid goes to play with. Because the values and the teachings and the learnings from Loyo Muzi, ubuya nazo ezendlini. So it's how you keep those values and that chain and that environment by trying your best to protect them, but realize that as Oshilo, ubaba lapha ukuthi kunama hour ongekho in control of. But from the values and the teachings, umntanakho will know what is right and what is wrong. And you got to give them the power to be able to make those decisions because you've made them that powerful. It's not about ubaba uzongishaya, because ngeke ngishaya. Ngizoboshwa.
I love that. I love it. I think nayi Mike ngala ngibone isandla ngale and then ngizobuya ngize ngakwena. Sabelo, hey. You're a great dad, ne? Yazi umuntu kuthiwe umuntu akalahla. Mr. Klamela, what's up?
All right, good afternoon everyone. Igama ngulungisa waXhamela. And I just want to deep it a bit, if that's okay, my player. Earlier on we spoke a bit about GBV. And we spent about 2 minutes talking about that. And we didn't go back really there. So I wanted to chat about that, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Obviously not easy to, just air out things to people that don't know me, but I just come out of a 7-year abusive relationship. And it was tough. But we don't talk about it enough, and when I try to speak about it, it's not taken that seriously. It's always, but what did you do? What did you do to? And when it's a man that does it, that question is never asked. It's just that person did it and it's wrong. But on our side, it's very challenging. I never spoke to anyone, obviously trying to protect her as well, from my family, from my friends, and thinking that I also change a lot, was right. I remember asking God, no man damn God, could you just make her a yegun bed, and that didn't stop. It didn't stop, and it's been about a month now since I've left. And it's not easy. I appreciate these kind of platforms where we can actually engage in that. And I would encourage us to dwell on it more, to speak about it more, and not just pass by it as if it's not existent.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, my guy. That is very brave of you. Ukhulume about that subject. And I think Lumka, we had a conversation about it. Yes, please, do you want to?
Yeah, and in the conversations with boys, the boys are saying that we speak a lot about statutory rape for girls, but we never speak about the boys who have been forced, and abused sexually by older women. We also went to one of our secure centers where we keep young boys who have committed crime, who are in conflict with the law. So when I was speaking to this 14-year-old boy who is serving time for rape, he said that he was sodomized by this guy. And every time when this guy was having sex with him, he had, he was enjoying it. So he also wanted to feel how it is to enjoy what this guy has been doing. Yes, we're not talking about a lot of what boys are going through as well in terms of the sexual violence that young boys are going through. We're not talking about the men that are abused. The children even said that when we talk about gender-based violence in the country, we always, it looks like, it sounds to them like we're talking about women, to the detriment of the boys. Because when we say gender-based violence, it's like it's women, it's women, it's women. And it's supposed to be boys. And the children said we must start changing even the language that we're using. And also not club children with women, because they as children are not protected from both women and men. And they were saying as well, it's so amazing how children are able to see through us, and we think that they don't see. They are saying that we've witnessed our mothers beating our fathers, but nobody talks about it, and they were saying we're not safe with anyone. We're not safe with women, we're not safe with men, and we hardly speak about what women are doing. And I think I did mention the issue of access of boys and the fathers. I'm not going to talk about the men and their maintenance and not paying maintenance, because that is always in the public domain. But we also don't also speak about how violent women are by not giving access a men to their children, because the children want to have access to their fathers, and we hardly speak about that violence. Yet we speak about the violence against women, and that when men don't pay maintenance for their children. So it is something that actually the children are bringing it up, and the children are saying that we must stop meaning gender-based violence until we know that we are talking about women and not talk about men. I also recently went to a shelter in Johannesburg, and specifically I was looking for a gay sex worker. And the gay sex worker was also saying that no one talks about the violence that we get when we go to work, because it's going to work as a sex worker. So there is a lot of shame when talking about violence against men or even boys. There's a lot of thinking that men are not going through a lot of things that are perpetrated also by women. I was angry the other day when I was listening to a fellow classmate that was saying to me that one of her lecturers did not want to take her assignment because she was talking about the fact that women withhold access. And the lecturer was like, no, it doesn't happen. And I was saying to her, she has not gone out to hear and listen to what the boys are saying about the violence that young children are also experiencing at the hands of women. So my brother, yes, it is happening and we know about it. And men are saying that even when they go to police stations, nobody wants to listen to them. Even when they go to their families, they are dying alone. This is why we have started as well a movement for boys, so that boys can be able to have a safe space where they can speak about everything and anything that is bothering them. And most boys are saying that they have a lot of mental issues and nobody's talking to them about the mental issues that they are going through. And I think somebody did allude to the fact that boys are killing themselves, men are killing themselves, but no one is talking about it. But somebody is seeing you.
I think this is where we wrap it up. Thank you so much, Lunga. Thank you to everyone that attended. Siyabonga ukuthi nithathe usuku lwenu and be here with us. I'd like to thank Kirsten Alexander. Thank you so much for your welcome. I'd like to thank Nkosinathi Moshwana for speaking with us. Actually, with Nkosinathi, you wanted to say something, or do you still want to say something?
The question.
Okay, cool.
Question for advice, because the conversation is so important, and your point really just brought me back to our project. So, 50,000 boys, 40% of them have been victims quietly. So that's 20,000 boys in those that we've worked with. Of the 20,000, less than 500 tried to report it, and the majority of them got pushed away. So that really triggered, because it's true and it's happening. My question is twofold. We have a challenge with mentors, because we deliberately wanted men to get involved because of the absent fathers, and we knew women would respond. We knew they would respond to be mentors. And when we got to the bottom of it, is that a lot of men shy away from being mentors because the conversations we're having like these trigger their own scars that they have when they're younger. So they shy away. My question is, what advice can you give us to help us support men not shy away from this? Because it's as much transformational for the boys as it is for the men. So that was our big challenge with men. Getting involved in this triggers them. We need assistance on how we can get that right, because we still have more women than men. And the second question is, a lot of our men who are involved when we have our mentorship circles always say to us, we can only pour out what we have. And you made an important point about affirming these young men. And our boys need that affirmation. But they don't get it because their parents didn't get it themselves. So how can we then bridge that gap where the very parents of the boys we support don't have it in their own cups to affirm? And that then, leads on to the boys can only really teach from what you know. And these are the big challenges we're having from a mentor perspective, which very much influences the future of the boy child. So two questions I have. Advice.
Martin, do you want to take it? Oh,
well, we haven't got another 2 hours.
Yeah, we do. I have a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to encourage men to start talking about these things. And the more men that stand up like me and say, hey, I was raped and sexually abused as a child, I start through telling my story. It's storytelling. I give other men permission to start telling their stories. And through beginning to start to tell your story, you begin to heal. And we need to make it okay to do that. That, to me, is the most important thing we need to be.
So in police stations, we have what we call women desk. If there aren't men desk in police stations, that's the first place to push for. So that when men go to report, there's a man there who's receiving this report and who's empowered to be able to support this man. The same way women are pushing for that. So we need to have those men desks. And I think when we do spaces like this, those who come out and speak, it's like with HIV, those who started saying, I'm HIV positive, encouraged others to start telling their story. And that's how women do it, right? The Me Too movement was one who stood up and said, I'm a victim. And others said, I'm also a victim. And if men come out and they are received in a space that is holding them and not shaming them, the movement will grow. So continue these spaces, hold spaces for men who are coming out, and support them walk their journey of healing, because they need to get to a point where they are healed so that they can then help others heal.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Muzikuzwayo Ngiyabonga Baba. Martin Pelders, thank you so much, my guy. Thank you. Miss Kodisang, thank you so much for coming through and gracing us with your presence. Kaise, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you, my Blair. Can I just add?
Why?
I just want to add this, because I've been trying to, and looking at Bega, I went through a very traumatic, tragic, sort of thing that happened publicly, and that compelled me to also speak loudly about my experience and grief of self and grief, because anything really that takes away from who you were originally created to be, is a process you must grieve. But I have these conversations, and please do check it out because it's coming back very soon. But I did find, that it was worthy to have conversations with men about these kind of issues where they're like, look, I used to be an abuser, but this is the reason why I used to do it. There are episodes that we did on that show. There are episodes where we spoke to absent fathers and about the issues that women are also perpetuating with the reluctance to giving access to children. So I do want to just mention that we are having these conversations, even as media professionals who do have, the following, where people do understand that we want to empower people about these things.
Thank you, thank you. Lunga, thank you for joining us as well. This has been the EmpowaMen Lounge Series. My name is Maple, and thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to our panel. But before we close, I'm going to ask Ms. Leroux to just give us a vote of thanks, because, we've got black people here. That's how we end things. Vote of thanks.
Thank you, Maple. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dumi Leroux, and I'm the Acting General Manager for EmpowerWorks. My job is very short and easy, and it's to just say thank you so much to all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and join us in having impact, transformational, and growing conversation that speaks to our human ecosystem. As EmpowerWorks over the past 10 years, this is exactly what we've been doing. We've been giving platforms for those that need empowerment and transformation, the ability to do so. We do it through men, through women, through youth and entrepreneurs. And we are looking for people such as yourselves to come and support and partner with us in driving these conversations and driving the change that we want to see within our communities. So if you are interested in empowerment, please reach out to Kirsten. She spoke earlier on. Kay, if you can just wave for those that didn't see you. And we also then have details on our website for you to reach out. We can have many more conversations of sort around different topics. I mean, I think the issues around men are overwhelmingly a lot. So there's a lot of room for more conversation, and you can certainly reach out to us to drive some of those. And then we also do look for partners in terms of our other properties. So if you are interested in empowering youth, do reach out to me. I'm the direct line for that. We've got women. Zaz spoke earlier on. She's for women entrepreneurs. You can reach out to Zaz as well. Please do have conversations with us. Let's ensure that we're not leaving our young generation behind. We're not leaving our boys behind. These are the people that will obviously take forth into the future, and we need to make sure that we're giving those that need empowerment the platforms to do so. Thank you so much. It is time for us to eat. It's been a long time waiting. So over there, that's where we've set up then for you guys to be able to eat. Can I please ask for our speakers to go right along first? So everybody that's behind me here and that spoke earlier on, if they can just eat first, then the rest of us can go. And then over and above that, please enjoy the rest of your afternoon. We do have a bar. It's officially open, and let's have a great sundowners. Thank you so much.